from Parshas Vayakhel touching Yud Beis, where the Rebbe talks about the idea of doing work only with our hands, a classic idea the Rebbe speaks about, and it has to do with what it says in the beginning of this week's Parsha. It says, Sheishes Yomim Te'asa Malacha. Te'asa means that it will be done as if it happens automatically, and that is the appropriate way how Yid has to work, not in such a way that he invests his whole being in it. So we're going to learn an excerpt of this Maamar. It fits in very well with understanding that Hashem is running all of our Gashmis and Parnasa by not needing to overinvest ourselves in doing so. So we're going to start from line 8 on the third page of the Maamar. An explanation of this idea of Sheishes Yomim Te'asa Malacha. In Ksiv, it says in the pasuk, Yigia kapecha kisoichel ashrecha v'toivla. The toil of your hands, of your palms, when you eat, it will be fortunate for you and good for you. So the Chazal, as usual, are very exact about the language of a pasuk. The pasuk uses a double expression. It doesn't just say it'll be good for you, but it will be fortunate for you and it will be good for you. Two different expressions of benefits that we get from the toil of your hand. So therefore, the Chazal say, from the fact that it says two expressions of benefit, it's talking about two distinct and different types of benefit. The Chazal explained in the Mishnah, that it will be fortunate for you in this world, and it will be good for you in the world to come. That's why it uses two different expressions to indicate that you will have two different types of benefits. But the question that arises is, what does work have to do with benefits in the world to come? We don't say, if you eat, you will have a benefit in this world and a benefit in the world to come. If you sleep, you'll have benefit in this world and you'll have a benefit in the world to come. Where does it come about, the idea that if you work, then you will get a benefit in this world and the world to come? So the Rebbe explains that the emphasis over here is on the word Yigia Kapech. So the Rebbe goes on to say in line 11, so it should be both fortunate for you in this world and should be good for you in the world to come. So the way how one needs to act in their work is in the way that it's the toil of your palms specifically. That the toil in the business and the work is only with the palms, not with the head and the heart. The brain and the heart of a person needs to be invested in the 4 cubits of Torah and the 4 cubits of davening and fulfilling of mitzvahs. But the toil in the business, is only with our palms. As opposed to his brain and his heart, those are not preoccupied with the business. And that goes back to what it says in our parsha, V'zel Te'asa. It says, Sheishes Yomim Te'asa Melach. It says the beginning of our parsha, Parshas Vayakhel Bikudei. What does it mean, Te'asa B'derech HaMeila? It's automatic. What does it mean that it's automatic? He is not preoccupied with the involvement in making the business, making the living. But rather it's as if the work is happening automatically. What does that mean? Why does that have to be our approach? So first of all, the Rebbe, as usual, turns things around and says, who says I should be working at all? Why can I work at all? So he says in line 21, in truth, in truth, a person should not be involved at all in matters of this world. Because to Hashem is the earth and everything that fills it. And the entire earth is filled with his glory. The heavens and the earth. I felt specifically, I going on Hashem's very essence. If so, when a person's involved in worldly matters, someone that's involved in worldly matters, it's like someone making a circle in the air in front of the king, which is something that's liable for a death penalty because he's being disrespectful. When a person is in the presence of a king, they need to be totally bottled to the king. So since we're in the presence of the Eibishter all the time, because the Eibishter is down here with us, so how can we be doing any activity which is not seemingly God-oriented and in respect and recognition of Hashem? So really, in truth, if not for the Torah telling us to do so, we wouldn't be able to do so. And by the way, this is also connected with another part of the pasuk. It says, it's going to be Shabbos, Shabbos and Hashem. The reason why Chassidus explains on Shabbos we are not allowed to do work, and to a certain degree the same thing on Yom Tov, because on Shabbos and Yom Tov all the worlds go up to a higher plane, where our presence before the Eibishter is in a much stronger fashion, and because we are in Hashem's presence in a much more powerful way, so therefore what we are doing is much more limited out of our respect for Hashem. So why is it that, but during the rest of the days of the week, during the 6 days of the week, we are allowed to do work? So the Rebbe explains, first of all, the Torah tells us we should do so. The Torah permitted us and also commanded us to be involved in Parnos. Like it says in Aseres HaDibros, it says in Aseres HaDibros, Sheishes Yamim Tavoi, 6 days you shall work, you should do all your work. So the Chazal says, Zu mitzvahs aseh. This is a positive command. In other words, the Chazal are puzzled by the fact that it has to tell us to work during 6 days. A normal person reading this, putting aside what we just now said, would think all the Torah has to say is the chiddush, that the 7th day you shouldn't do any work. So why does the Torah the whole time tell us 6 days you shall work and you'll do all your work, and then on the 7th day you'll rest? All it should say is on the 7th day you shall rest. Why does it have to tell you on the 6 days you shall work? Does the Torah tell you you can go ahead and do this and this and the other? You can wear all types of clothing except clothing that have shatnez. No, it says clothing that have shatnez you don't wear. The Torah doesn't have to tell you what you have to do. The Torah mainly has to tell you what are prohibited activities. But then if it tells you it's prohibited to work on Shabbos, obviously the 6 days of the week you're allowed to work. So why does it say 6 days you should work? And the word tabik is a very strong type of expression. You should do it. It doesn't say 6 days you may work, you can work, you have an option to work. So the Chazal derive from that zu mitzvahs aseh. It's a mitzvahs aseh to go ahead and work during the 6 days of the week. Hashem will bench you in everything that you do. So we see that we cannot just rely on Hashem's bracha and say, I'm going to sit comfortably in my couch and wait for the brachas to come down from the Eibishter. No, I need to work. So even though logically I would think that maybe I would be prohibited from working every moment of every day, but the Torah told us, go ahead and work. You're allowed to work, you should work, you need to work. Yet, the Torah also provides conditions for it. Kol makom still in all, it's only in the way of the toil of your palms. This means that his brain and his heart are not preoccupied with it. His involvement in this is only in the power of action. And this itself only according to what is necessary. In other words, I can work a lot with the palms of my hands. I can work a little bit with the palms of my hand. So I have to do it as much as necessary. It should be a vessel for the Baruch of Hashem. And like we mentioned many times in this year, that the Tzemach Tzedek says that a person should calculate and think, how much money do I want to make? And based on what he calculates, how much money he wants to make, that's the type of work he should do. That's the amount of hours he should be working, based on what would be the normal expected thing, that to be able to make this amount of money, I need to work X amount of hours, but no more than that. And the Tzemach Tzedek explains, it's like making, if you work more than that, then it's like making clothing that's too big for you. The clothing that's too big is not accomplishing anything. Either a person can trip over it. The same thing, the parnasa that I work with is something that is a keli for the brach of the Eibishter, it's a levush for the brach of the Eibishter. And if the levush is too big, I can trip over it. Then the Rebbe goes on to say in line 8, we say to him as even more so, not only do I need to only work as much as it's necessary to be a keli for the brach of the Eibishter, that he uses the work for the service of the Eibishter, like it says, in all your ways you should know him, not just the outcome of the work, not just the money that he makes, but also in the work itself, he finds opportunities and ways how he brings the Eibishter into it. So despite that, we are calling it toil. He's saying not just the work of your palms you should do, but yegia kapecha, the toil of your palms. So he's saying that it's called toil because of the way how we are uninvested in it. Because the person on his own is only interested in Torah mitzvahs. And his involvement in making a living is only because he feels that he's forced to. He looks at work as if he's being forced and coerced into doing this. What does that mean? He feels like he's being forced into it. We just now said that the Eibishter told him to do so. We lost though according to Torah, he was given permission to. And there's even a mitzvah and a command for the Eibush, like we said before, to be involved in parnasa, like we brought at the beginning of this page. Still on all, he does not desire the business. Chassidus explains the difference between chayfetz and rotzen. Chayfetz means something that you enjoy. Rotzen is something you want to do, but it could be what's called chitzonis rotzen, for an ulterior motive. Like many people don't like to work, but they work because they want to have the money, or they work because they want to have the money so they should be able to have the food. So the chayfetz is not in the ace. So the same thing that Rebbe says, that this person that is working because Hashem tells him to work, he has no desire in the work itself. Though he uses the actual work as opportunities to serve the Eibishter, and he feels that he's doing the work only because he's forced to do so. Therefore, he calculates, how much time do I need to be involved in the business? Only in those hours he's involved in it. Even while he's involved, he's checking the clock, he's waiting. That the time that's necessary for the business should pass, to be able to be involved in Torah and davening. Since he's not desirous in matters of business, therefore it's called toil. And this, again, this doesn't have to be specifically business. This is all our physical preoccupations that we are doing for the goal of being able to do Torah mitzvahs. Everything else is only a means to an end to do Torah mitzvahs. And as much as they are allowed to be done, or they should be done, a person should always be looking at the clock. When can they get back to their true involvement, the idea of Torah mitzvah? It goes on line 23, when Nimtza comes out. Yes, but there's two extremes over here. On the one hand, the business is in such a way that's only the toil of his palms. She'ena machnis possess, moichi v'liba, he doesn't invest in it, his brain and his heart. Only his power of action as it's necessary to be able to accomplish whatever he needs to accomplish. But his will and brain and his heart are not invested in the business. To such a degree, that the business is in such a way that it becomes done. Like we said, the Lashon are which parsha te'asa is becoming done, not tasa or yasa or tavoy, but te'asa it becomes done because it's like happening automatically because he is not the one doing. His brain, his heart is somewhere else. It's just his hands that are doing. He's on the other hand, that is nikr b'shem yigiyam. This is called yigiyah. It's called toil. This means though he only invests in it the power of action only, to the degree that's necessary, but in a way that's, like we said, automatic. Since he doesn't desire it, even the involvement in the power of action alone, it's called Yigia, it's called a toil, it's called an effort, it's called work. Now the Rebbe is going to go on further in the pasuk. Further in the pasuk, it continues in the pasuk in the seventh day it will be for you holy, a Shabbos of Shabbos. The Rebbe says an amazing gain that we have when our attitude to work in the middle of the week is in the way of a asa, so then our Shabbos is on a totally different level. At the beginning of the Maamar, the Rebbe asks, why is there a double lashon Shabbos Shabbosim? So he's going to explain the double lashon Shabbos Shabbosim based on what we just now said, Tei Asa. I know this means kasher. 6 days, the work will be done in a way that's like automatic. But so then the seventh day, it'll be a Shabbos of Shabbos. And as we know, Shabbos is dependent upon what goes on in the middle of the week. We don't reach Shabbos automatically. Usually, we don't reach Shabbos automatically, meaning literally to have food on the table. Like the Chazal say, Misha Torah Erev Shabbos, Yechel Shabbos, someone that puts in toil and effort Erev Shabbos, someone that works on Erev Shabbos will eat Shabbos, which means in the simple sense, it means that a person has to prepare his Shabbos food so he should be able to have food for Shabbos. You cannot come into Shabbos without anything prepared, because Shabbos we can't cook anything. But Chassidus explains, the Rebbe explains, Misha Torah Erev Shabbos means if a person does the appropriate spiritual avodah Erev Shabbos, so then their physical avodah is also the way, when they do their spiritual avodah Erev Shabbos, so then when they have their spiritual avodah Erev Shabbos the way it's supposed to be, so then the avodah is on Shabbos of a totally different variety, of a totally different type, of a totally higher level of avodah of Shabbos, as he's about to explain. So he says, the Hine, line 13, when the way that he's doing his work during the 6 days a week is not the way it's supposed to be. That his involvement in business is not in the weight of the toil of his palms alone. He invests in it, his brain and his heart, but and he becomes preoccupied with the business. Therefore, then also gam kasher menatikes atzmei l'sham in yonia esik. Even when he tears himself away temporarily from matters of business during the week, even. And during the week, he wants to be involved in Torah and davening. So then foreign thoughts intrude and bother him. Let's skip a little bit further. And then he says further, line 28, and therefore, it's not just the middle of the week he's not able to tear himself away from it, but Gam Kashaboyim Shabbos, when the day of Shabbos comes, at least he wants to look at the glory of the king, which is a term for thinking into the greatness of Hashem and davening a little bit better and so on. Then he cannot tear himself away from his own being. Not only doesn't he have a Shabbos of Shabbos, such a state that then he will delight on Hashem. In addition to this, Shabbos tam, Shabbos pam achas ein loy. Top of the next page. Even on ordinary Shabbos, and once Shabbos he's missing. This is also what Chazal say. A person should always see themselves on Shabbos as if all their work is done, even though they might be in the middle of a big project, in the middle of something. Comes Shabbos, they have to look at it as if the entire work is done. He says, how is it possible that all of a sudden when Shabbos comes, I cut myself off and I feel and my attitude is as if it's done, even though we're in the middle? How can I have such an attitude? It's only when the involvement of business is only in a way of the toil of my palm. He does not invest his brain and his heart in making a living. But when he's all preoccupied with the business, then it cannot be that on Shabbos day all of his work should be done in his mind. Because of those matters of business and preoccupation with this world that he did not conclude before Shabbos, even on Shabbos day, he is burdened and confused by it. Only when his involvement in business is in the way of the toil of your palm. That he's not preoccupied with this. That's the idea of 6 days. You shall do work. Not you shall do work. The work shall be done. But automatically. And then when it comes to the 7th day, it'll be a Shabbos of Shabboses. It's an idea of an additional holiness he experiences on Shabbos. Because also on the weekday, he's on the level of Shabbos. He's not preoccupied with mundane matters. That's why when Shabbos day comes, so then he has an additional kedusha in a much higher way, a Shabbos of Shabbos. So that's what he's saying. If my weekday is like Shabbos, because I'm not preoccupied with my brain and my heart, it's only my hands doing it. So even on the weekday, I'm experiencing already Shabbos. So what happens when actual Shabbos comes? Then it's a Shabbos Shabbosin. Then it's a higher level of Shabbos as well. So the Rebbe goes on to say that this is something that occurred. When did Moshe Rabbeinu tell the Yidden this? Parshas Vayakhel Pekudei was told to the Yidden on the morrow of Yom Kippur. After Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu on Yom Kippur, I've forgiven them like your words. Began the repair for the sin of the Chet HaEgel, which is the Chet of Avodah Zarah. Similar to this in the time of Golas, that we need to repair the sin of Avodah Zarah. That for that sake, because Avodah Zarah was the destruction of the first base of Mikdash. Concerning this, it says the first thing he said, right way before he even told him about the Mishkan, he came down Yom Kippur after Yom Kippur, and he came down Yom Kippur and he told him the next day, How do we repair this? It's through the involvement of Parnasa will be in a way that 6 days the malacha should be done in an automatic way. And the Rebbe is going to go on to explain further in the Maamar that when a person gives importance to anything in the physical world, so then that is a mini type of Avodah Zarah. That's where Avodah Zarah start from. So let's go to the next page, line 7. One should not consider the powers of nature as anything. Because the powers of nature are only like an axe in the hand of the woodchopper. So therefore, just like one wouldn't thank an axe if a woodchopper gave you wood, the same thing, you don't thank the moon or the stars or believe that my physical accomplishments were brought about my parnas. A subtle form of the sin of Avodah Zarah is we give any type of value and importance to the garments and the definitions of nature. In other words, when a person goes to work and he's investing his entire mind and heart in the work, that means he believes that the natural work is what's bringing about his parnas. He doesn't believe truly, he doesn't feel truly that the parnas is coming from Hashem and the work is only a tool. Because if he'd only believed that the work is a tool, he wouldn't invest his mind and his heart in it. He would just do it with his hands. So therefore, how do we counter that subtle form of Avodah Zarah, from which real Avodah Zarah eventually evolves from? Therefore, the repair for this is when my involvement in worldly matters, in making a living, and other worldly matters in such a way that it is done automatically, without the preoccupation of the brain and the heart. What was Avodah Zarah? What was one of the main things that a person showed that they followed Avodah Zarah is bowing down. What's the idea of bowing down? Bending my head. So the Rebbe says bending a person's head means they're investing their head into whatever the Avodah Zarah is about. So the same thing, this idea of the investing of the person's brain into the parnasa, that's like ishtachavot to Avodah Zarah. This is similar to what the Rebbe speaks about. We're coming now, we're getting ready for Pesach. And one of the things that Rebbe always speaks about in the Sichos, about that Pari wanted to throw the Jewish children into the Nile. The Nile was the Avodah Zarah, the Nilus was the Avodah Zarah of Mitzrayim. So Pari Melech Mitzrayim says we got to take Jewish children and immerse them into secular studies, into figuring out how to make a good living, which is the Avodah Zarah in America. And one needs to throw them into that like head first. So he says, that's the idea. The idea of bowing down one's head is one immersing their brain in the garments of nature of the business and the making a living. That is the subtle form of Avodah Zarah of serving idolatry. And we skipped the part in the Maamar where he brings down the classic idea of the Rambam, that the Rambam explains that how did Avodah Zarah begin? It had to start from something. So it started from the fact that they saw that we get our sustenance from the sun, the moon, the stars that make the plants grow and everything. So they felt that you need to thank them as well. But the truth is they have no power of their own, like the axe in the hand of the woodchopper. So the same thing, when a person goes ahead and gives importance and value and throws his head into making a living, that he is thinking, just like the ancient person is bowing down to the sun, believing that the sun is a shliach of the Eibishter, but still responsible for his crops to grow. So The same thing, the person thinks that my going to work or doing whatever it is what's responsible for my parnasa. About tikkun al zeh, and how do we repair the idea of Avodah Zarah and the Chet Egel and the reason for the Golus, which comes from the Chet of Avodah Zarah, like we said, and the Rebbe traced it back all the way to the Chet Sadas as well. Al zehu teyasim b'lacha. But this, the way how we repair this is that that work should be done in b'derech hameila, in an automatic way, where we reserve our brain and our heart for holier things, and when we're doing mundane matters, these are things that a person does only externally with their power of action. We will stop over here.